High School District 228 Board of Education meeting to order. Can have the roll call, please?
Mr. Canning?
Here.
Mrs. Gleason? Here. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Jones? Here. Mrs. Campworth here. Mrs. Ressler? Here. Ms. Stearns?
Here. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the open and closed session minutes of November 17th. So moved.
Second.
Sorry, Ms. Jones, did you? And it's in by Ms. Russell. Any discussion? No discussion.
Ms. Jones? Aye. Mrs. Ressler? Aye. Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason? Aye. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Campworth? Aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye. Motion passes. Board recognition.
Okay, good evening. If I could invite a couple special guests up here with me, Becky and Mark Mensing. This is absolutely the dynamic duo here. Becky has been the music booster president for the last 2 years. Is obviously a big part of being a face of the program, and it's nice to see not only from family support, but Mr. Rojek coming up as well to support their award. She's oversees all band and choir events, especially Jazz Night and the Madrigal performance, which recently took place here at Oak Forest. She chairs all the major fundraisers, including raffle and ad book. They just launched a new business sponsorship that you might have seen at the last concert in the program. Oversees organizational aspects of band and choir concerts, and obviously for the student and for the school and the community. Been a continuous support throughout her time in that position. Her husband Mark is kind of a behind-the-scenes participant here in the boosters as well. He's designed the multifunctional. You might have seen him at the concerts. Spirit carts, really impressive. I'm sure he can make a pretty penny if he sold those. And he volunteers a lot of hours as the photographer, getting pictures out, even giving access to our yearbook to pull some neat candid pictures from that. So we appreciate all the work that they do. As I mentioned earlier today, that sometimes these are thankless positions that they just do for all the right reasons. But when we get an opportunity to recognize them, it's obviously a good to be a part of. So. Becky and Mark Mensing, thank you for the time that you've donated.
On behalf of the Board of Education Volunteer Excellence Award, the Board of Education presents this award to Mark and Becky Mensing on December 2015. You have helped provide a positive learning environment for the students of District 228. By the time and the talent you have shared, thank you for it.
You need to be in the picture.
Video. I took two. Thank you again. Along the fine arts theme, it's enrolling into our good news reports. I've invited a pair of very talented sisters, Audrey and Emily Cooper. Emily you might have recognized from last year's board meeting. I also like to thank her parents for showing up today too. So Audrey and Emily to give our good news report for Oak Forest High School.
Where do you want us to stand?
Wherever you'd like.
That's a good spot there.
It's a good spot.
Okay.
Always the performers, right?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Emily Cooper, and this is my sister Audrey. Thank you for having us here this evening. We would like to highlight our experiences at the Illinois Music Educators Association.
Both of us auditioned for the ILMEA All-District event with over 3,000 top music students. It was a day-long musical experience. The audition was very scary because of all the talent in the room. While I waited for my audition, I was amazed at the musicality of the other auditioning student musicians. When my turn came, I took a deep breath and started focusing on the music. Both of us went through the rigorous audition process of etudes, musical excerpts, scales, triads, and sight reading. I walked away from the audition rather skeptical about whether or not I would be selected. A week later, when I heard the good news in my jazz class, I felt like crying. I was so surprised at being selected for the all-district concert band.
I was also selected to be in the jazz chorus and the concert chorus. These ensembles met on November 14th and November 21st at Elmhurst College. It was an all-day rehearsal with some outstanding conductors. One of them is a world-renowned composer who wrote 3 of our songs. At the end of the day, we performed in a gymnasium packed with thousands of people. The musical experience was so great because of the opportunity to perform with the most talented students in the Chicagoland area. There's a connection that you get from performing music with such members of a talented choir that you can't get anywhere else. I've also been selected for the All-State Choir. To get to this point, the auditions are recorded and the best of these audition recordings are selected for All-State. I'm looking forward to travel to Peoria with my choir director in late January to participate in the ILMEA All-State Ensemble. Once there, I shall audition again for placement in either the All-State or Honors Choirs and participate in 3 days of intense music rehearsals as well as performances with the best student musicians from all over Illinois for just a few hundred spots.
We are so pleased to be a part of the Oak Forest High School music program. Without the high-quality musicianship of Mr. Pazik and Mr. Rojak, we would not have been able to succeed at this level of accomplishment. Music is such an important part of our lives that I would like to pursue a dual career. I want to play for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and work with animals, my second love.
I'll be going to college next year to pursue a career in music education with a choral focus. I've been accepted to Elmhurst College and am still considering other universities and colleges. Elmhurst is one of my choices because it has the #1 jazz instrumental program and #2 vocal jazz program in the state of Illinois. We wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. On behalf of Oak Forest High School, we would like to thank the Board of Education for giving us the opportunity to share our musical experience. Thank you.
Excellent job. And to introduce our presenters from Tinley Park High School, Dr. Nolan, Principal of Tinley.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Tinley Park High School, I would like to welcome Giovanni Gray and Morgan Schnell. And there's a familiar face sitting out here. Jack is back, so Jack is back visiting. Take it away, ladies.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So to begin, from Tinley Park High School, recently we had 23 out of 28 of our BPA students just qualified for state recently. We also had the Titans kick off the holiday season by participating in the McDonald's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Our band, Palms, cheer team were all there, so it was a great event. You saw us like walking across the screen. This is the 3rd time that Tinley Park has actually been selected to participate in the Thanksgiving Day Parade in Chicago. And also, we are happy to announce that 23 students from Tinley Park High School have been selected as Illinois State Scholars. So out of all the high school seniors in Illinois, they rank among the highest.
She's one of them.
And for athletics, our boys varsity bowling team has been rolling its way around in all their competitions, no pun intended. And also, our girls bowling team has been 6-0, undefeated so far this season.
As Gia mentioned before, 23 of our 28 students qualified for state and BPA. Some special recognition that we'd like to give is to some students who placed first place in 2 events. So we have Salvatore Geraci, Amber Hollop, Kaja King, and Victoria Lopez. The state competition will be held in March, and we look forward to seeing how our Titans will perform at state. The members of our sophomore class at Tinley Park High School wanted to make sure that our soldiers knew how much they were appreciated this holiday season. The group, along with the club sponsor, Miss Sherry Walsh, spent most of their recent time writing messages and Christmas cards and sending candy to our troops. Also, our culinary management class, which is taught by Maggie O'Connor, ran a Titan Breakfast Club to help students practice their skills while running a small sort of restaurant. And then also, just this past week, some of those students made special Mexican cuisines for our staff members. And then we also want to give some congratulations to Brandon Williams and Eric Schultz. They made their decisions on their post-secondary education. Brandon accepted a baseball scholarship to Northern Illinois University, and then Eric accepted a wrestling scholarship to the University of Nebraska. And that is all we have. Thank you very much for your time.
To introduce our Braves, Dr. Joe Simone. He's our assistant principal for teaching and learning at Bremen High School.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Presenting the Bremen Good News Report this evening is one of Bremen's finest students, not just for the class of 2016, but I think in the history of Bremen High School. He's NHS president, involved in activities, and I was just thinking about some of the programs we started the last couple of years. He's been there as a figurehead in our Bremen Pride Project, our EP mentoring program, our EP parent night. So I'd like to call him up, Javier Cavrubias. And I want to congratulate him because this week he received his letter of acceptance to
Stanford University. My name's Javier, and I'm here to get the good news about Bremen. I'm going to start off by talking about the Something You Should Know program we have at Bremen High School. Dr. DeLucas has staff meetings each month, and all the staff members kind of come to the decision about who to nominate, which students to nominate for this Something You Should Know program. And among these students were Joshua Brooks, Bill Powers, Ricardo Avalos, Damian Beeheimer, and Carson Edwards Fournier. And Joshua Brooks was nominated by Ms. Opsel, Mrs. Connolly, and Mr. Self for his overwhelming ability to overcome personal challenges. One of his goals was to be part of the football team, which he achieved. He is respectful and on the honor roll. Bill Powers, who's a really good friend of mine also, he was nominated by Mr. Sell, and as a 2-year starter for our football team and a captain, he always has given his best effort off and on the field. He is a member of the NHS, Student Council, and Scholastic Bowl. He is also an AP Scholar and scored a 26 on his ACT. His involvement in community includes 6 mission trips, serving food at local shelters, and assisting with Hurricane Katrina victims. He was recently nominated and awarded the Chicago Bears Community Champion Award, which is only given to 2 students in the whole state. He will be presented with this award at the Hollis Hall on February 15th and will also receive a $5,000 scholarship to the college of his choice. Ricardo Avalos, another dear friend of mine, was recently nominated by Coach Granite to be Daily Southtown Player of the Year, and this is for soccer, of course. And he was actually he was a 2-year all-conference selection, SEC Blue Player of the Year, Toyota Park 32 Team MVP, and a 2-time All-Sectional and the Southtown Boys Soccer Player of the Year. Next is Damian Beeheimer. I have him in some of my classes, and this kid is just beyond smart. It's insane. He is sincere in his desire to learn. He doesn't really care about the points. He just cares about going to class and learning. And I think that's just outstanding. And again, probably the smartest kid I've ever met in my life. Next is Carson Edwards Fournier, and they were nominated by Mr. Salgado. They were a born leader in the Bremen Choir and were recently crowned as the 2016 Miss Illinois High School. She's working on an anti-bullying campaign by going to different places and talking to people about bullying. She was recently the Grand Marshal at the Midlothian Santa Parade. In July, she will compete in the Miss High School America contest. As Dr. Simone mentioned, I am a part of the Bremen Pride Project, and I am the member-elect on the board. And what we do is we go to the feeder schools, such as Colmar and Central Park and Keller, and what we do is we kind of go there and we have two goals. First is to break down the perceived barriers between junior high and high school, because I know how difficult it is to have to transition from 8th grade to high school. It's a big jump, but I always wish I had someone there to kind of make it a lot easier for me. So I love the opportunity to be able to ease this jump for these 8th graders. Second, we focus on the student-led presentation and a Q&A to help identify and prevent bullying in the school setting. Bullying is an issue that's going on in schools and outside of schools, including online, and it's an issue that needs to be stopped. And again, this program is just as beneficial in helping to do that. Next, I want to talk about the food drive. As NHS president, I have some good involvement in that food drive. It is one of the biggest actually in the area. And what we do is we deliver all our foods to the St. Stephen's Pantry and St. Christopher St. Vincent E-Paul Society. I don't exactly have the number of how much we delivered this year, but I know we broke the record from last year. And I believe that record was, we actually broke a record the year before that too. So we're breaking records every year. And it's just great to see that all these people in our community are donating food to pantries, and all the food is staying locally too.
I think I heard 12,000?
I believe so, yeah.
12,400.
Yep.
53.
If you're counting.
Yeah. And recently I placed second place in advanced interview skills for a DPA competition. So I'll be going to state in March to compete for advanced interview skills. And that pretty much sums up what's been going on around Bremen. Thank you again for your time listening to me, and Merry Christmas.
Congrats on that admission. And to introduce our Hawks, Dr. Renee Sims, Principal of Hillcrest.
I am pleased to present Mr. Jared Kennebrew Campbell, who is going to give a good news report for Hillcrest High School. He just came flying over here from a bowling tournament. Hopefully he did well.
Good evening. As stated, I am Jared Kennebrew Campbell. I'm a junior at Hillcrest High School. And as also stated, I am a part of the bowling team. I just recently came from a tournament. And I'm just happy to be here and to present to the board and the audience several activities that have been happening over at Hillcrest High School. In recognition of those who have sacrificed their lives to serve our country, the Hillcrest Concert Choir performed in the annual Country Club Hills Veterans Day program. Taken from a poem of the same name by Langston Hughes, the choir sang I Dream a World. I Dream a World is a song written after the attacks of September 11, 2001, and dedicated to those who were willing to sacrifice their lives for peace in our nation. The program opened with the national anthem, sung by Hillcrest's junior, Shelby Jones. The program was attended by numerous veterans, family and friends of those who have lost loved ones in war. The Hillcrest Drama Group recently wrapped up production on the fall musical Emma. Emma is a modern retelling of the Jane Austen novel. The musical and comedic twists featured outstanding performances by students Jada Roberts, Savannah Wooden, Maureen Yarrow, and a host of others. The musical featured hit songs from legendary female groups and iconic female singers from The Supremes to Katy Perry. The musical definitely made a statement for girl power. In the spirit of giving, the Hillcrest Key Club has wrapped up the Cell Phones for Soldiers drive. The Key Club, led by Miss Amy Trench, collected used cell phones that will be recycled and used to purchase calling cards for our soldiers who cannot come home for the holidays. Cell Phones for Soldiers is a national non-benefit dedicated to serving troops and veterans with free communication services to their families. On November 18th, Hillcrest hosted its semi-annual family reading night. Elementary school children were invited to attend this exciting reading event. During this event, the high school library was alive with activity. The Hillcrest Student Athlete Leadership Team, or SALT, read and provided activities for children preschool through 5th grade. The Hillcrest Culinary Club members provided light refreshments, and the Hillcrest National Honor Society students assisted with the activities. Media specialists Lisa Walsh and Kara Williams were responsible for the evening. 9 reading stations were available for the enjoyment of the children. In addition to the reading activities, a Grand Prairie Public Library representative was on hand for library card registration and outreach services. Numerous children and their parents joined the interactive reading club. Ms. Julie Kirk, freshman leadership sponsor, traveled with students to a leadership workshop at the Bridge Teen Center in Orland Park. The 2-hour workshop entitled Message Sent was one of 6 sessions included in the center's leadership program series. The workshop was an interactive It was a session presented by Bridge Center staff focusing on effective communication skills. The workshops were highly engaging and energized the students. Hillcrest will continue to work with the Bridge Teen Center to develop our students' leaders. Now, as mentioned before at the family reading night, a few National Honor Society members were present at that time. I also recently this year got inducted into NHS, which honestly to me is really fun, and I really appreciate Ms. Sims and all of the representatives of my National Honor Society helping me out with all of that. So, to end this night, Hillcrest is home of the Hawks. We are a school community with high expectations. We accept no excuses, and there are no exceptions. Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Tomorrow, so feel free to leave at this point if you have some studying you need to do as we transition into our school presentation. And to introduce the topic for today is our Assistant Principal for Student Services at Oak Forest High School, Mrs. Jane Dexter.
I just wanted to start out by introducing my co-presenters this evening. Paige Stryzak, our health teacher, and Lori Shimotsky, one of our guidance counselors. And we have 3 students joining us tonight, Ariel Torres and Delaney Burns and Armani Bibb-Smith. Okay, so ladies, if you want to pass out to the front table, the tall pile, and then just to some of our guests in the back. So our topic for this evening is, we're going to start, I just want to cover a little bit of the topic, right? On teen depression, stories of hope and hope. And I'm just going to kind of take you through a little bit of information about where we've been at and where we're headed to with this topic. As the ladies are passing that out. Sure. That can really help, right? Okay. So, what does data tell us? What does data out in research tell us about what's happening in society? I'm just going to share a couple of things about the data that's out there, that 15 to 20% of our young people will struggle with a depressive episode before adulthood. We also know that mental illness accounts for 90 to 98% of all youth suicides, depression being the most common of all. And roughly 80% of young people with depression will go unrecognized and untreated. When we take a step back and we look at what the data is telling us, we know that there are issues out there in the general population in the United States of America. But what does our data in Bremen District 228 tell us? What does our data tell us about our students at Oak Forest High School? Well, what we found by really taking a step back and looking at our data, we found that similar to teens across the nation, we know that students in our district in Bremen 228 struggle with depression and other mental health issues. What sorts of things did we really look at to come to this conclusion? Well, quite honestly, here at Oak Forest High School, unfortunately, we had some student suicides in past years. And it took us really taking a step back from that, because that was absolutely a very traumatic experience for not only our community, but also our staff and for our students to go through. We had to maybe take a little bit of time and take a step back and look at what the overall data, because really when we were in the midst of dealing with that, that was all we could think about. That was all we thought that our students were dealing with all the time. So we wanted to look at more data than that. So what we did at Oak Forest High School is we took a look at, we surveyed our students and we asked them, what are the things that you guys are dealing with? We had a whole list of different things, and it really helped us gain a perspective on how many of our students are dealing with depression, how many of our students are dealing with lots of other issues like anxiety about having to take their finals, dealing with parents who are divorcing. And so we found that yes, we do have a population of students that deal with depression. We also took a look at the data from our social workers and the logs that they have and the referrals that they make to outside agencies. We took a look at the data that says how many times we're reaching out to agencies like SAS to do suicide evaluations and at-risk evaluations. So when we came to a conclusion, what we decided that we needed to kind of figure out how we were going to address these needs. And so what we did is we methodically here at Oak Forest High School and the other buildings, we've had discussions about what are our current practices and programs that we have in place. And we took a look at the fact that really the part in our curriculum where we address mental health and where we address depression is through the health curriculum. And it's through a partnership through student services, but also with the health teachers. And then we wanted to take a look at what are the database prevention programs that are out there that maybe other buildings are using, other districts, I should say, are using. And so we started sort of on a journey here at Oak Forest High School within our Student Services Department, having people come in and present what their programs were all about. And so we researched that for a while. And what happened was there was quite a bit of synergy that started to occur, as it does in a lot of these projects. And so it just so happened that Lori Shemansky, one of our counselors here at Oak Forest, she knew that we were discussing this at our PPS meeting. She knew that we had been doing research. And she actually attended a program where Erica's Lighthouse was presented. And now because of that synergy and because of her excitement about it, she started talking to Paige Streisig about this after she saw it. And based on some of their conversations, and based on the fact that we had had conversations with Matt Meany, who's the PE supervisor, and we knew we wanted to do an interdepartmental approach for it, Erica's Lighthouse could tick all of those boxes for us of what we were looking for. It is, and will continue to be, a research-based program. The training materials were free. And the training was free in addition to the fact that the materials were free. It is a video-based curriculum. It's up to date. It's not something that we're presenting to kids and they look at it and they go, oh, that looks like from my parents' generation. And the really nice thing is we can collect data from it because there are pre and post tests. So within the district, what we did is we had started looking at some things here at Oak Forest High School, specifically within our department, but kind of happening at the same time is John Caney was working with the social workers from all of the buildings, looking at this whole issue around suicide prevention, around depression and education related to that. So what we did is in spring of 2015, there was a training that we sent our staff to for our district social workers, for health teachers, and some counselors. And they all went to do a little bit further evaluation of would this be a good program to bring to our district. In fall of 2015, which believe it or not was just a few months ago, we did a full training with the full student services staff and the health teachers during the Opening Day Institute. Since then, each building has done their own building planning meetings, and we have actually for the first semester taught the curriculum to the health classes for first semester. Plan for second semester of this year is that of course that curriculum will once again be taught. I'm going to have Mrs. Streisig talk for a few minutes about the curriculum, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Shemansky to cover a little bit about some of the results that we've seen then from the program. I know you don't need this, but I'm going to give that to you anyways.
Hi everybody, I am Paige Streisig. I teach health here, and I'm part of the PROUD program. We have been teaching about suicide in our building here at Oak Forest High School since I've been here for 12 years, but like Jane had said, we really had nothing significant that we had in place that was research-based that we could use and say, okay, this works, it's been shown that it's worked. So I think it's been awesome that we paired up partnerships with the PPS departments and district-wide to come up with something that we could all use so that we can service all the students across our board and not just different things in different buildings. So it's really a unified thing, and I think beneficial to students and staff, because then staff has the ability to bounce ideas off of each other and continue to kind of work together and collaborate, not only with the teachers in our department, but the teachers in PPS as well. So it is a 3-day lesson. In previous years, we taught it in two days, so it's 1 day longer. And the 3 days go like this. Day 1 is really focused on how depression is very, very common in teens and how it is a serious brain disorder, but not something that somebody chooses to have and not something that somebody can really control on their own. They usually need help. And then we try to teach students that it's not somebody's fault. It's not something they choose to do. So that's really the focus of choose to have. That's really the focus of day 1. Day 2 is trying to increase self-advocacy, so trying to teach students that if they are struggling and they are feeling sad and they are feeling hopeless, that they can be a self-advocate and there are people in our building that they can reach out to for help. That usually depression is not something you can deal with on your own. And peer-to-peer intervention, saying, look, if your friend is struggling and you see signs, you can go to people and you can go to people in this building and say, look, my friend needs help. And kind of reach out for them. So that's a huge part of day 2. And then day 3 is increasing student engagement in activities to promote mental health. So obviously mental health is a huge thing here in our district, and promoting that and allowing students to feel empowered by mental health is really important for us here. And so that's really what day 3 is empowering students to be a self-advocate for their own mental health and give them tools that they can use to make their mental health or increase their mental health. So I brought 3 students with me today. They're freshmen, so I commend them for being here. Really hard thing to do, but I'm putting the pressure on them now, right? So I gave them a question that I wanted them to talk to you guys about. It's all about preparation, but feel free to ask them questions at the end. I told them that they might have to be ready for that. So they're going to introduce themselves to you, give them the question I posed to you, and then give them their response to you about the question. So first up is Ariel.
Hi, I'm Ariel Torres, and I'm going to talk about how this program is beneficial to my generation. I think that Erica's Lighthouse is very beneficial because it teaches teens how to cope with depression and lets them know that they aren't alone in this situation. And if adults and other teens understand the signs of depression, they can not only save their own lives, but the lives of others that are suffering through this illness. Erica's Lighthouse makes teens more educated about depression and helps people take initiative of their own mental health.
Hi, I'm Delaney Burns, and I'm going to talk about the benefits of Erica's Lighthouse. Erica's Lighthouse benefits and teaches students and teens how to cope with stress and depression. It gives them an opportunity to talk to someone if they are in this situation or if one of their friends is going through this. Many teens do not know who to go to or are afraid of what will happen when they do tell someone. But Erica's Lighthouse is an opportunity for them to receive help and cope with what they are going through.
Hi, I'm Ramani Bibbs, and I'll be talking about my views on this program and how well I thought it worked. The Erica's Lighthouse program has taught a lot of teens on how to deal and cope with depression. This program provides ways on how to treat and help stop the stress. Personally, I believe this program is very effective and a big success.
Do you want to do questions now or later? Do you have any questions for my girls, or do you want to wait till the end? Pressure's on.
Well, I'm going to ask Mrs. Shemansky to share. We do have, I was going to say, we do have a little bit of data to share with you just in terms of how many students we reach and some of the results. So maybe if after she gets through that, if you have some more questions.
Hi, I'm Lori Shemansky, and I do want to give them a round of applause. What they've been I can't say enough how much I appreciate everybody being on board with us throughout the entire district, and the support from the health teachers and their administration, the counseling and the social workers, and our school psychs and our speech paths. They were all on board with us as well. First semester went surprisingly well. I think the curriculum itself is so well run and easy to use and current that it makes teaching those 3 days really effective to our students. Here at Oak Forest High School, this lesson was taught to 140 students within 5 health classes just for first semester. District-wide, 570 students throughout our district schools were impacted by this program in 19 health classes through this 3-day presentation. And I think that is really significant that all of those students were impacted. Again, that will be doubled almost second semester based on the number of health classes that are offered each semester or second semester in each of the buildings. I have to get my cheat. I'm not like the kids. I have to have my cheat sheet next year. We took a look at some of the test results on that pre-test that Mrs. Dempsey mentioned, and then the post-test, and saw a significant increase in the percentage of students and how they answered those. So we're just going to go over, I believe we have 3 questions here, and I think these questions are really important as far as what our students are learning. You listen to these students, you listen to our Good News students. These kids are smart, bright students. But when you see this pre-test questions that we ask them, they still are children, they still need our help, they still need to know what they're dealing with and how they can get the help. And I think that's really the key to Erica's Lighthouse. So the pre-test given here at Oak Forest, excuse me, 65% of our students that believed that depression was a treatable illness. After the 3 days of lessons, that percentage jumped up to 95% of our students that believe it is a treatable illness. The second question we looked at, and it's an extremely important question and something of grave concern when you see this kind of a percentage for our students. On the pre-test that the health teachers gave our students, 39 of our students did not know what to do to get help for themselves or a friend. 39%. You know, we need to teach this to kids over and over and over again, and tell them it's okay, and tell them they can reach out, and tell them to talk to people. After the 3-day lesson by our health teachers and social workers throughout the district, here at Oak Forest, I should say, first, 92% of them now know where to get help for depression. So a significant increase. The next question we looked at is, did they know a person in the building that they could go to? So on the pre-test at Oak Forest, 66% of our students did say that they knew an adult, a coach, a teacher, an administrator, the custodian, whoever in our building that they could go to that they knew would help them. After the 3 days, 84% did say that they could reach out to an adult for help for themselves or for somebody else. After we gave the 3-day lesson, at the end of every day, and the girls handed out some information to you, you'll see a laminated little card. At the end of every day of lesson, every student, it was mandatory, that was their exit slip to get out of the health class. The health teacher then took those results, or the social worker brought them down to the PPS department. The counselors, the speech paths, the school psychs, I don't want to miss anybody. The deans, I'm sorry. Came to help. We went through all of the cards. Any of the students that needed somebody to speak to immediately, we then divvied them out and called students down. Students that said they could wait within 24 hours to a week to talk to somebody. If we had time that day, we followed up with them that day, or we saw them within a day or two, I would say, even less than a week. So out of the 100, what was it, 140 students originally that saw it. 34 of those students indicated that they did need to see a mental health professional after seeing that curriculum. All 34 students were seen by somebody from PBS, and parents of the students that were at risk were all contacted and followed up with. So the rest of the packet that you were handed by the girls, you'll see some information that we have used to give to students, and then other information that we use to pass on to parents to help them, as well as a resource packet on community agencies. The data we found is this that we're giving you is specific to Oak Forest, but don't think it's just Oak Forest. Bremen, Hillcrest, Tinley Park, all of them did the same exact thing, and their numbers were very similar to ours. Very similar on the numbers of students presented. They might have been a little higher, they might have been a little lower, and very similar on the number of follow-ups that the PPS department did with students and parents. District-wide, actually, 130 students through the 4 buildings were self-identified as a need for themselves to get help, or for a friend or somebody they knew. And so each of those students, 130 students, were contacted by our PPS department throughout the district, and families were followed up with, talked to, given information, given community resources, and a lot of those students now are participating in other activities here at the school building. So I can't speak any more highly about it.
So as Lori mentioned, there's quite a bit of data that we've collected then from this that we're really excited about Erica's Lighthouse. We're excited to see the growth that students have made in learning about depression. And we're certainly happy and relieved that there were 130 students district-wide that felt like they could fill out that card and ask for some help, and then have some follow-up from mental health professionals within the building, and then also some referrals to outside agencies as well. So I want to mention just a couple of the people who have, as Mr. Shimowski said, there were people that embraced us in each of the buildings, and I just want to mention that certainly our 2 social workers, Jen DeVosher and Cassie Reed, they were a driving force behind this. Over at Hillcrest, we had Carissa Schwab and Lauren White, who really took this on, Teresa Conley at Bremen, and then Keith Hune at Tinley, who were really our sort of go-to people and started this initiative in each of their buildings at the same time. The last thing that I want to mention is just related to the fact that we did this because we felt there was a need. But certainly, as we know with the state of Illinois, sometimes they will legislate some of these requirements, and we do believe that there is something that has passed part of the House. Did I say that right? Part of the House. But it's still waiting to go through the other side, and that is a mandate for this sort of curriculum to be in schools. And so, hopefully, we are a few steps ahead of that mandate, and certainly starting to see some good results that we can evaluate this curriculum as we move forward. But so far, it's been very positive, and we're moving forward with the second semester. So I want to thank my co-presenters tonight, and certainly open the floor if you have any questions, comments for us.
Okay. Right now, this is only freshmen because it's health classes?
Correct. Yes.
So we'll start.
Yes.
Do you find referrals from other higher classes now that some people know about it?
We did have some referrals from, because part of it is that students can say, is there a friend that you're concerned about? And so we did have some that were not freshmen. And so, yeah, I think this is one of those things that's going to take a few years to get everyone through. Everyone's been through the primary health curriculum that includes depression, includes mental illness. But as this becomes part of our lingo, and you probably didn't notice there's a lot of things hanging in the hallways. But one of the pieces of this is also that there are flyers that are hung throughout the building with contact people's names, and what offices they can be found in. That's another part of the curriculum as well.
And is Erica's Lighthouse an organization, or is it just this program?
Erica's Lighthouse is an organization that includes this program, and their basis is to the whole education piece. Yes.
And it is, the history to Erica's Lighthouse is that and a lot of things are driven this way. They had a tragedy. A family had a tragedy. They lost a daughter. And so they and their friends started and talked and developed this program, and it has just grown. I mean, they have an office, they have staff, you could call them, they're picking up, they're asking for data, they want to keep track of data, but they have private, I think they're up, I'm going to say in the Winnetka or Wheaton or something area, and they have private people and companies making donations to keep this up and running. They just asked for our feedback. They wanted to know how many kids were impacted here in our district, and they wanted to know, what we were doing. So they do follow up as well, and things are current. I mean, I've found over the years that sometimes you start a program, and 5 years in, you realize, oh, this looks really outdated. So this is current. It has kids on these videos. I mean, you can go into Erica, you can Google Erica's Lighthouse, you can get to the curriculum free, no problem. You can see everything.
You can watch every video that the kids have seen, follow the step-by-step facilitator's guide.
Well, congratulations, it sounds like a great program. I'm curious, just the follow-up, once they're identified as having some issues, how does it go from there?
So
I know that you said that there's some parent contact and counselor contact. So
right.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
So it's going to depend on what the level of the student need is, and that's going to come from some of the assessments. So that's determined, just as if before we were doing Erica's Lighthouse, there would be an assessment, and then we would determine what interventions were necessary in school. So it could mean things such as continued social work within the school building. It could mean doing some group work with the social workers. Sometimes it's the whole gamut of all the different interventions that we have. Sometimes it's daily check-ins with some of the students. And then maybe sometimes it's coordination with the nurse with some medication needs or things like that. So the whole gamut of sort of what Student Services does with working with students.
Could they be sent out for like outside counseling? Is that what the Erica's Lighthouse, one of their things that they provide?
Sure, so that's, they do not provide that, and so what we didn't give to you was another little piece of it that we have shared with parents, which are outside resources. So we would never mandate some of those things, but certainly giving them...
Up to the parents?
Sure, yes, and that included our typical resources, like Bremen Youth down the street that we use, or some of the other private clinicians that we have. Yes.
Agencies.
Yes. So that is included in a packet that we gave to parents as well.
So then, at what point does District 228 say, okay, it's in your hands now, we're done, we're going to go on to try to identify the next student? Or does it happen?
Well, I guess it's not quite that cut and dry. I mean, once they're our students, they're always our students, and we're always wanting to monitor what their needs are, and make sure that we're supporting them on the whole social emotional side.
So that's not what we do.
Right. Well, what we're here for is really the basis of Student Services is to support students in their academic and social emotional endeavors. So we're not doing long-term therapy with very significantly at-risk. That's just not the role of
and that's where the outside counseling would start.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So this curriculum's taught freshman year. What are we just relying on, like the new freshmen to keep it alive in the school? What are we doing sophomore, junior, senior year? When I know there's other curriculums that are taught, and come junior year, the kids don't even remember they had studied that freshman year.
Yeah. So we do have social emotional lessons kind of interwoven through all 4 years. This is the one that's very specific to depression and suicide prevention. We also have conflict resolution lessons. We also have goal setting lessons. More helping students dealing with feelings throughout all 4 years. But certainly, if there's a need for more supportive things, we have programs through, like I had mentioned, through group work that doing with the social workers, or through maybe some other pull-up things through if there's special education services for students, things of that sort.
We're reaching out to parents of students that have been identified as at risk, either from self-identification or through a peer. There's some kids who they have their at-home personality and their school personality. Are we doing anything to make sure some parents get the information they need, even though their kid may not be identified at risk?
Just in terms of general parent information
educating
about...
the parents? Is
Sure.
that what you're saying?
Yes.
Sure. So I think I can't really speak for all 4 buildings in terms of what's happening. I know some people on their websites, they have certain parent links that are on there that deal with social emotional issues. I know we have that, and I know that's a component on there. I guess I haven't seen everyone's website, but I'm assuming that theirs are kind of similar to that. But that parent information piece, sometimes our social workers will send out little email blasts with some information for parents of, it's a stressful time of season, these are some of the things that you can do. So I think that kind of depends from building to building what they're doing in terms of their all-encompassing universal interventions related to, if we're speaking about depression specifically.
What did anything you were preparing for this or researching that said it one way is particular over another in how to deal with a tragedy? Like when we had this previously, did we do the right thing? Did we do the wrong thing?
Sure. There is a what's their name? A crisis team in South Suburbia, and certainly when we were experiencing a few student suicides, we absolutely reached out to them and certainly had conversations with them about these are our thoughts. There's of course a manual that you can that we have from them, supplied by them, that kind of take you step by step. These are the things you should do, these are the things you shouldn't do, because there's a lot of research behind what are proper responses by a school or team and what are not. And so yes, we did consult with them just in making sure, because it's a difficult time, and there a lot of not only the students but also staff and families and the whole community is certainly affected by that, and you want to make sure that you're using best practice, research-based best practice.
Did the training you went through for this, looking back, did you say, oh, we could have done this, we should have done this? You see differences that we could have changed things, or we were good then?
Well, I think as you get new research, you always want to do things better. So, and I think that's what this was about. It gave us a chance to sort of take a step back, see what we were doing, and of course, we as student services staff, we're just the kind of people that, no matter how much you do, it's never going to be enough, because there's always more kids out there to help, and there's always other things that you're going to miss, and there's always, so that's certainly always a struggle, an internal struggle for probably anyone, not just in student services, but anyone in the helping profession. And so, I try to make sure my staff lives with the motto, you do the best that you can when you're in that situation. And certainly, of course, we're always going to second guess, could we have done more in any situation? So I think we were doing some really good things, and this was just a way to enhance that.
And I think the training, because it was talking to a group of professionals, it was really geared to teach us the curriculum, to show what was available to us, to show us how to use it. But also, I think in that packet, I believe, is there a protocol page with questions on there?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. So, and when I first started, probably back in the day, how many years ago?
20.
Yeah, 20 plus years. I might not have been as direct as they believe we should be now. So some of those questions seem a little bit like, really, you're going to ask that question? But yes, that's what we need to ask. We need to ask them these specific questions. You don't beat around the bush. You don't assume anything. You ask them the questions. And you ask it again if you're not sure. And you ask it again if you have to. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're all getting better at really pushing, maybe, I hate to say pushing the boundaries, but pushing more than maybe we did certainly 20 years ago. It was like, well, that's even us, the profession, well, that's private. We don't want to ask too much. No, now you ask. You ask direct questions, and you try to really listen to the students. So I think the training helped us tremendously with that part.
So,
the program of, ask questions about bullying, or is that affected in there? Is that implemented in there?
There's really
bullying, or is it like general or whatever appeals to the student?
So we talk about bullying in health, but the program itself does not, the students, the videos are geared towards, we follow these 4 students who suffered from depression, mental illness, and kind of their story. And some of them will talk about how bullying played a role into their depression, but they don't specifically talk about it. But we as health teachers do discuss a lot on how bullying and just how that affects other people and what you're doing to other people and how that can push them into depression or into suicide. We talk about that, but it's not really embedded in that curriculum. But that is almost immediately what we talk about after depression and suicide in our curriculum. So we kind of go from, the kids are always like, oh my God, these are some heavy topics, Mrs. Streisand. We talk mental illness, bullying, it's like in that order. My kids are like, can we get a break? Can we talk about a body system and take a breath?
Do you think, just, anybody can answer this, in your opinion, we have a page on our website for bullying. You think maybe a page for parents for facts about depression and suicide, would that be helpful?
Sure. We're always trying to gather more information from parents as to what's the best vehicle to get information out, because I think it was Mrs. Stearns mentioned, you teach them something and they're like, oh, did I have that? And so certainly that's something that we've been discussing. Are people even using a website, or are they relying on other things? And we're finding, just from a recent poll of some parents, that they're really appreciating some of these quick little texts that come out.
I was just thinking about that. I have Remind Me for my class, which my students can join, and then I put on my website and tell the parents that they can join. I get the parents' emails, and tell the parents that they can join. So when you mentioned that, I was like, instant in my head, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do that next semester when we talk about it. I'm going to send out a blast, my Remind Me, that for just something simple, for the next few days, we're going to be discussing Erica's Lighthouse on suicide. If you have any questions, please email me. That way, either the students are going to get reminded, I have parents who are friends with me on Remind, at least it'll start the conversation. So literally by you just saying that, I'm like, instant. That's going to be 100% the change I'm going to make next semester.
Yeah, and certainly something that we can share with the other buildings as we kind of talk about how things went first semester, what our plans are for second semester, that outreach piece. And maybe each building is a little bit different in how they do that, but certainly a great suggestion for how we can do that.
So question for the students. Do you feel like after being involved in the curriculum and sitting through it, and it sounds like it was a lot, that it gave you guys the opportunity to talk a little more maybe at your lunch table or just as friends or after school? Did it open up some dialogue that maybe you're more comfortable with talking with your friends now because you learned some points on what depression is?
Because most of my close friends, but they're also in gym, are in health, are going to take health next semester. So we all kind of were taking it at the same time. So we all knew the facts and lots of videos and kind of thought about these questions in our head, and we're all kind of discussing it.
All right, I won't put you on the spot now, but do you think you have any ideas to improve the program from your perspective? Some things you would like to talk about with depression and suicide? Do you feel comfortable talking to your teacher, or maybe writing it on a note and say, next time around, maybe you might want to talk about this because my friends have suggested this or that? Do you feel like there's anything more you wanted out of the program?
No, I feel that I was able to now I'm comfortable that I can go to someone if I am going through that or one of my friends are going through that. So
Do you, as a student, how comfortable do you feel with going to an adult about your friend?
I feel more comfortable now knowing how, knowing this whole Erica's Lighthouse program, knowing that there are more people out there that I can look at to help, not just me and my friends as well. And knowing that if I go to a teacher or my friend's parents about their daughter, or that they can help more and that I can be saving their life by talking to them.
Right. We really talk a lot about that too, that it's too big of a burden for a 14-year-old kid to carry by themselves. And I say in class all the time, pass that burden to us. We are adults, we can handle it. We have ways of handling it. We've been taught how to handle it. So stop trying to carry that load and that weight by yourself. Pass it to one of us, pass that burden off. And we do mention that the repercussions of, first of all, we tell the students that we're never going to say that you said it. Jenny told us that you're feeling suicidal. You tell the students we would never say that. But even if it does somehow come out that you're the one that told, that them being mad at you for that little bleep in your life is not going to be compared to what you'd have to deal with if they did commit suicide or had something serious happen to them, and the guilt you would feel for a long, long, long time. So we talk about that too. And I think we've had students walk up to us and say, my friend needs help. We've had parents come up to us and talk about it. We've had students nominate, even 8th graders on that little sheet. We had a couple students say, I know somebody at Arbor Park who is really struggling in self-injury. Can I put their name down? And we're like, yes. And then our PPS department called Arbor Park.
Wow.
So it has been a community effort on all aspects of what's taking place with Erica's Lighthouse. And it's just going to get better and better and better as we get better and learn from what the students have to say and learn from what we did in the classroom and add things and take things away and just continue to make it better and better every day.
And hopefully it'll make some generational changes on the stigma of mental health, and these kids don't have the issues some of us are having.
That's a big piece of it, wouldn't you say, Nate?
Well, yeah, it's putting it out on the table. It's getting kids to understand that it is a treatable illness, that it is not a choice. It's no different than having diabetes or obesity or that or anything.
There's no
there's no specific. It's not geared toward this ethnicity or this race or this gender or somebody with glasses or somebody with blonde hair. It's everybody. You know what I mean? And all across the board.
Yeah, really quick. I'm not going to change this like last night. Okay, I remembered it. Aside from a student harming themselves or someone else, are there other red flags that you've identified where you realize that this could be a liability issue and it's time to hand it off to the proper authorities?
Well, I think kind of tying all of that in together is the fact that when we started doing even more research about it, we found that it's really not something that there's always telltale signs for. And that's sort of what shocked everyone so much, is that in retrospect, a lot of times you think, oh, this was a little different, this was a little different, this was a little different. But sometimes there is just no other contributing factor to it, and it's sort of a surprise. But what we did find is that kids will talk to other kids about it. And so that's why we really knew that we needed to tap into them and them being able to feel comfortable with us to communicate that stuff. So in terms of your question about are there certain indications that we need to hand it off, yeah, and I think those will come back to the indications of anything of a student in a school setting, and that would be if they're really struggling with grades, and if they're really struggling with behavior, if they're really struggling with the whole system of what school is all about, we need to look at everything that's going on in that kid's life. And maybe one of those is related to, one of those factors contributing to that is related to depression or some mental illness. This is a time of life when teenagers a lot of times will start to exhibit some signs if mental illness is going to be in the future. And so you really have to do an all-around approach and really take a look at all of the different facets of what's going on with that kid. So using the same things that we've always used. Are they struggling in school? Are they struggling with behavior here and at home in the community? Have they started withdrawing from things that they enjoy? So those would be the things that don't necessarily always point right to depression or mental illness or a risk of suicide, but they do point to that there are some issues that we can tackle.
And has the general feedback from the parents that you have reached out to, has it been positive? Because I think I echo the other concerns here about the parents being a little bit getting the information there has to be more proactive. I think back in our days, depression was looked upon differently, and your parents are more often told snap out of it. There's nothing wrong with you. And I just literally, has that changed with time? Are you seeing less of that with parents today?
I definitely think parents very much welcome any help that you can give to them. At any place you can point them in the direction of we really have not had any issues where parents are resistant or said no. They're really looking to us for what else, and we've already tried these 3 things, so do you have any other ideas is more so of what we're seeing right now.
Thank you.
So who is the contact person to the parent? Is it the psychologist, a social worker? Who's the main person out of these 130 kids that you've identified?
So here at Oak Forest, we had 34 specific students.
I guess I'm asking, what's your team? What's it made up of?
So what the setup was that we had here was Paige taught the classes along with the other health teachers with our social workers. And so what it looked like then on the opposite side is, so as they were teaching, our student services staff were working with the other students. So when we got got the cards back, we would go through those cards, and we would look at who has relationships with these kids established already. So most of the time it was counselors seeing them, sometimes it was school psychologists seeing them, sometimes it was a dean seeing them, and then whoever worked with those students and did an assessment of really, is this just saying that they're down? And sometimes out of those 34, maybe it was something as simple as I wanted to talk to somebody because I'm upset about my classes and my grades. But some, it was a genuine assessment of, are they at risk for suicide? And so the outreach then that went to the parents came from the person who was working with them and had done that assessment. So primarily the counselors and the school psychologists and the dean, mostly because the social workers were teaching the lessons with the teachers. So that's how it was. Of course, the other buildings may have been a little bit different.
Thank you.
Does the students that participate in activities, extracurricular activities, was it like a lower percentage of them being depressed?
That is a wonderful question. We did not do a specific demographic profile of who those 34 students were, but certainly a great thing that we can pursue in the future and just see.
I will tell you this, when I went through the little cards, I went through the cards at the end of, before I gave them to the social workers, because I was curious for myself who in my classroom was struggling. And it was amazing that when I got to certain students, I'd be like, no way, there is no way that that student needs this, really? Like, that is not how they act in front of me. And then I find out that they need way more help than a lot. You know what I'm saying? And then I'd go through another one, I'd be like, really? Oh, okay, I can see, I can see that. And then another one, really? Wow.
Which is why I asked, if they're not identified as at risk, could be missing something.
Right. And that's why this was pretty powerful, not only for the students, but it was powerful for us as adults, absolutely. And then seeing the data, that was the thing that I think was the win. The difficult was, as the adults, seeing how many kids there were and seeing who the kids were because they weren't always who we thought, but the win that came out of it was seeing the data that's coming from it. So certainly a difficult thing to tackle, but I think we're making some progress in that area, so really excited about it.
So I want to thank our students for coming out and wish you the best on your final.
Absolutely.
It was kind of like an eye-opener because as a 14-year-old, you don't think that oh, one of my friends could be going through this, but someone next to you that you don't even know very well could be going through it, and it just kind of opens your eyes more.
Or you think the popular kid has everything, the football player has everything, and they could be the very kids that are struggling.
And there was students like that in this building this year that I was like, he's a varsity athlete, he's popular, he's good looking, you know what I mean? He's a good kid, and I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? And it's very.
Yeah, chemical deficiency doesn't discriminate.
No, it doesn't.
Correct.
And it's amazing how many students their age will step up after this and tell,
Nice job.
Do you have any comment from the public? We'll move on to reports starting with the superintendent.
Since our last board meeting, we have not had any Freedom of Information Act requests. Student representatives from all 4 schools attended a workshop yesterday at Bremen High School. The students shared their opinions, thoughts, and ideas regarding our schools in terms of athletics, activities, the campuses, co-teaching, culture and climate, student engagement, student publicity, social media, and technology. The students were also invited to attend a second workshop to prepare for our Students in Leadership Board meeting, which will take place on January 19th at Bremen High School. Our students start taking their finals tomorrow, and Friday will be the last day of school before winter break. On behalf of the Board of Education, Administration, and all staff of Bremen District 228, I'd like to thank our entire school community for a successful first semester and wish everyone a happy and safe holiday. School resumes on January 4th, and we look forward to another semester of great things from our students and staff. Yep.
Any board members have anything they'd like to say?
Great article in today's Southtown about an Oak Forest student, Jerron Johnson, who is a member of the Capital Leadership Institute of Chicago, and he's on his way to either Cornell or Ohio State. I don't know if anybody got to see this, but a wonderful article about this young man and about 228 in Oak Forest High School, so congratulations to all of them.
I got a couple of things. Had the privilege attending the magical dinner with board member Campworth. It was fantastic. I want to thank obviously the staff here and the students did a wonderful job. It was fantastic. Good time. I won't miss one. And then also the parade, it was mentioned earlier, Tinley Park Band, Pom-Poms, and some other groups participated in the Thanksgiving Day Parade downtown, and it was really special to see them walking down the street, and I was sitting in the audience and in those bleachers with other schools from around the country, and you know, they had some nice comments to say about one of our schools, and so it was nice. So, congratulations to them and everybody else.
Yes, I was able to attend the joint annual conference this year, and the theme was Ready, Set, Lead. This was my third conference. It was the 83rd year of conferences. And every year I learn something new that I can come back and share, love to share with my fellow board members and put into practice. The main goal of the conference is for professional development in our local, and bring back to our local district. While we may be from different locations and represent different school districts, we're all able to come together, learn something, and bring something to the table. And we represent a wide range of enrollment, and it's not surprising that urban and rural districts, large and small, have similar experiences to share. Bremen High School District 228 was one of the nearly 700 Illinois school districts represented at this year's event. Also attending the conference were board secretaries, regional and state officials, educational professors, school attorneys, and hundreds of exhibitors. Over 9,800 people attended the event on this year. Also, there were some dynamic speakers. They had about 3 different speakers. I was able to attend on Saturday, where Freeman Harbosky, first time I ever heard of him, but he's a dynamic speaker. He talks about how he has brought around, he's a dean at a college in Baltimore, Maryland, and how he has turned around the community and the culture into a frame of mind of thinking positively and producing leaders and college-bound students that achieve great things. And one of the things that he said during the conference was, teachers touch eternity through their students. And I just thought that was a really nice saying. And he also said that Dream Fulfilled is watching your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions, and watch your actions because they become your habits. The beauty, and he ended his speech, and the beauty of life is in the struggle. Joys come after the struggle. It is through the struggle, through the struggle that sometimes that we become our best. And also on Sunday, which was the closing of the conference, Kevin Brown spoke, and he talked about how to about heroes. And heroes are people who show up and make a difference. Heroes help people with no strings attached. And those are some of the things that he stated in his. If your vision is big enough, the odds don't matter. I thought this was very encouraging for board members and for all that could attend and hear them. They were very great speakers this year. Also, I wanted to, being the best we can be by exercising best practices, and that's one of the things that I learned. Not only was I able to learn and take from the conference, I attended 3 conferences, attended a lot of leadership summits and panels and things like that. Sharing through information through collaboration. Not only was I able to get information, we were able to share information. One of the things that I was asked during one of the roundtable discussions was, what are we doing to encourage students and involvement in our community, as well as what are we doing for the schools and to find out more about the schools. And I was able to share how we are able to have our good news report and have the students being involved in the actual finding out about what they are doing in the schools and through presentations like we had tonight. And I commend the students that came out here tonight to give their reports and stand up and be courageous. So this was an outstanding conference. I also was able to attend the parade and hear the bands play. That was absolutely dynamic. And happy holidays to everyone and Happy New Year.
I'd like to congratulate the Tinley Park Drama Club on their production of, gosh, I'm losing my mind today, on The Diary of Anne Frank. I was really blown away by this production. I'm more familiar with musicals and dance and big costumes, and really didn't know what to expect coming into this production. And if there was a dry eye in this auditorium or audion after the performance, then you have ice running through your veins. It was phenomenal. So congratulations to their production. Very proud of them. Also, again, congratulations to Tinley Park Marching Band, Flags, and Palms for just looking just awesome at the downtown parade. Couldn't have been a better day for them to perform, and they looked really great. To kind of add on to Leslie's announcement of the conference, this is my first year attending the conference, and really had an opportunity to get some great education around bullying, finance for school boards decisions, and the use of data. Got to meet the creator of the Illinois State Report Card and get clarity around some statistics and how statistics are used and misused throughout the district and the state. And even got to join Debbie Stearns at a President's Roundtable and have conversations with other board presidents and hear some of the challenges that other school districts are faced throughout the state of Illinois, and kind of collaborate and talk about how they resolve issues and hear suggestions back. So I think no school district too big or too small. I think we all have some of the same common challenges and absolutely the same goals. That I think after listening to some of the things that the other school boards are facing, the challenges that they have, I really commend our district and our administration and teaching staff on just a phenomenal job. I was really proud to hear that some of the things that we've done are way ahead of the game, and so really proud to be a member of District 228. So, and again, happy holidays, and wish everyone a happy New Year.
Thank you. I also attended the conference. One of the highlights for me, I was able to meet with Tony Smith. He's the state superintendent, and he indicated to me that one of his main goals is reworking that state report card so it more adequately reflects what is actually going on in our schools. It's more understandable by any parent, any taxpayer who wants to look at it. They won't have to look further into what this actually means. It'll be just like your child's report card. Also met with some legislators about funding, how funding's messed up in the state, how they really need to look at that, how they need to give us what they say they're supposed to give us, support for our programs. An interesting thing too, in talking to other school boards, started asking what was your budget and if they were deficit, non-deficit spending, and most districts that I spoke to they were in the deficit 3 to 4% of their budget. So it kind of, to echo Christine, we've done a lot here to be proud of. We're looking good.
I just want to say that I attended the conference too, found it to be a great learning experience for my first year. Learned a lot of things like everyone else did. I want to congratulate Oak Forest on the Madrigal dinner. I was there. Phenomenal production. You should try to go if you haven't ever gone. And to Tinley as well for being in marching, the parade, Thanksgiving Day parade. It was an awesome time. And then to all the bands and choirs that performed over the last week or two for winter performances. It's a lot of work from all the kids, and they've all done a great job. And happy holidays to everyone.
I just want to say I went to the conference as well and took several of the classes, and you know, it's honored to be doing this type of work. You don't get paid to do it, but you're trying to make a difference in the community, and I enjoyed it, and I'm going to leave it at that, and happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you. We'll move on to finance reports. Ms. Ressler?
Finance Committee met on Monday, December 8th at 7 p.m. It was called to order at 7. President were myself, Mr. Candy, Mrs. Camworth, and Mr. O'Malley. There were none absent. Guests were Mrs. Gleason, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Stearns, Dr. Kendall, Mr. Goggins, and Mr. Grossi. There were no comments from the public. New business, December bills, impress funds, and deposits. Those present reviewed and discussed the December bills, impress expenditures, and deposits. These items were also reviewed by the superintendent, who along with the Finance Committee will recommend full board approval at the December Board of Education meeting. There were no over 5,000 purchase orders. CDS bills, those present reviewed the CDS December bills totaling $409,505.73. These items were also reviewed by the superintendent, who along with the Finance Committee will recommend full board approval at the December Board of Education meeting. Spring athletic supplies equipment bid. The Finance Committee reviewed the spring athletic equipment supplies bid. The district received bids from 12 different vendors. The superintendent, along with the Finance Committee, recommend approval of the low bids totaling $30,149.50 to the Board of Education. 2015 aggregate levy. The Finance Committee reviewed and discussed the 2015 aggregate levy, which did not change from the tentative levy that the board approved in November. The 2015 levy of $53,790,200, which is the total cap funds, will be less than 5% increase over the last year's levy and will not require a public hearing prior to the adoption of the final levy. The superintendent, along with the Finance Committee, is recommending full board approval of the 2015 aggregate levy along with the associated resolution. Tax abatement resolutions. The Finance Committee reviewed and discussed the resolutions pertaining to the 3 phases of the Country Club Hills development: Lowe's Theater, Walmart, and Country Club Plaza, located at 167th and Pulaski. In prior years, the Board of Education signed agreements abating 50% of the taxes for a 10-year period on the properties. Walmart has 2 years of abatement remaining. Last year, the board entered into a new 10-year agreement with the Country Club Plaza abating 40% of the taxes. The superintendent, along with the Finance Committee, recommend full board approval of these abatement resolutions. CSCB application. The Finance Committee reviewed and discussed the application requirements for the CSCB Qualified School Construction Bond process. Mr. O'Malley and Mr. Grossi explained the details pertaining to the bond issue available to schools to complete necessary capital projects. This is an opportunity for the district to qualify for an interest-free bond issue through the federal ARRA funds that the state of Illinois has released. The application must be approved by the board and submitted prior to January 15, 2016. If approved, the district would have 18 months to issue bonds and then would be required to complete all capital projects within 3 years from the bond issue. The Finance Committee has discussed this matter and along with the superintendent is recommending the full board approval of the QSCB application. Payments to Palos Hospital. The Finance Committee reviewed and discussed the request for payments to Palos Hospital. The Finance Committee, along with the superintendent, is recommending the full board approval of the payment to Palos Hospital. Next meeting will be Monday, January 11th, 2016 at 7 p.m. in the Administration Center. The meeting adjourned at 8:47 p.m.
Teaching and Learning met on Tuesday, December 8th at 7 o'clock. Present were myself, Mrs. Stearns, Mrs. Gleason, and Dr. Williams. Guests were Mrs. Rhonda Krakow, Mrs. Jane Dempsey, Mr. Tom Monahan, Mr. Kevin Donegan, Dr. Dave Kabalkis, Mr. Greg Fitch, and Dr. Scott Buchanan. The Teaching and Learning Committee met with the members of the Class Size Committee to review the student enrollments in second semester classes. In addition, feedback from the building's JFA representative was provided regarding first semester courses and the overall sectioning process. This feedback is helpful when sectioning for the upcoming school year, especially as we are continuing to see an upward trend in students transferring into the district after the start of the school year. The JFA representatives worked extremely well this year with their respective assistant principal for student services. As a result, many of the overloaded classes were already resolved prior to our meeting. The JFA representatives provided positive feedback about the process and overall class sizes this year. The committee discussed the status of the state offering an ACT this spring. While there does not seem to be a definitive answer regarding the administration of ACT or SCT, nor if funding will be provided, the committee agrees that it would still like to offer the ACT to our junior students, as many of them are preparing to take the test this spring. Therefore, any junior will have the opportunity to take the test in March. The district will look to offset the cost of the test using grant funding. The committee discussed addition of studies of American literature and honors level course to the junior course offerings. At present, junior students only have the option of taking regular American literature or AP English language and composition. While the district believes in pushing and supporting students to advance placement courses, we currently do not have an avenue to challenge a regular level student at the lower level. The Honors American Literature course is intended for a regular level student who desires to increase academic rigor. The course is not intended for AP students looking for an easier academic experience. The committee is recommending the addition of studies of American literature to the 2016-17 curricular handbook for board approval. Dr. Williams made a presentation about the district's evaluation model in order to familiarize the new committee members with the evaluation processes and procedures. The history of teacher evaluation in the district was explored and how this has led to the development of a new performance evaluation model using the Danielson framework. The purpose is to provide a framework for professional practice that develops a shared understanding of the complexities of teaching that supports a collaborative culture within our education community, which leads to student achievement. Using the 2010 Para Law as a guide, the District Evaluation Committee, or DEC, researched, drafted documents, and gathered feedback from teachers and administrators about various aspects of the process and designed the process and procedures to be used for evaluations. The new model was implemented at the start of the 2013-14 school year, and over the course of 2 years, feedback from the staff was used to make adjustments to the process and tools. The committee will explore the Danielson framework and the evaluation process further at next month's meeting. A discussion took place among the committee members and Dr. Williams about the current status of our math curriculum. Interventions and curricular modifications are being made to support struggling math students. The math department supervisor will be working with teachers this spring to identify the future of math instruction in the district to support all students. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 12th at 7 p.m. at the Administrative Center.
Personnel met on Monday, December 7th. Everyone was present. We had no comments from the public. We had no old business. New business was as follows. Mr. Gaggins presented the following certificate to staff. At Hillcrest, the approval of the employment of a math tutor and the approval of the medical leave request for the fine arts supervisor. And for Oak Forest, the approval of the employment of a special education services facilitator. The committee agreed to make these recommendations to the full board. Mr. Gaggins then presented the following educational support personnel recommendations. At Bremen, the approval of the employment of a bilingual aide. And our next meeting will be January 11th at 6:30 at the Ed Center. New business, Mr. O'Malley?
Thank you, Ms. Stearns. Board members, item 10.1 pertains to our monthly bills. The addendum to those bills, payroll and CDS bills. The Finance Committee has reviewed these and along with the superintendent are recommending them to the full board this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ressler, second by Ms. Gleason. Any discussion? No discussion.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Camworth, aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. O'Malley.
Item 10.2 pertains to payment of a Payless Hospital bill. The Finance Committee has reviewed this thoroughly, and again, along with the superintendent, are recommending this item to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ressler, second by Ms. Gleason. Any discussion? No discussion.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Camworth, aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. O'Malley.
Item 10.3 pertains to our 2015 aggregate levy totaling $53.7 million for our non-capped, or for our capped funds. Again, along with the superintendent, Finance Committee is recommending this to the board.
I move to approve the certification of the tax levy for 2015 taxes in the amount of $53,790,200 as presented, and related resolutions pertaining to the 2015 tax levy. Items are submitted to the Cook County Clerk's Tax Extension Office, where the amount to be levied for bond and interest will be added.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ressler, second by Ms. Gleason. Any discussion? No discussion.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Camworth, aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye.
Item 10.4 pertains to the tax abatement resolutions that would be also filed with our aggregate levy for Country Club Hills, as Ms. Russell reviewed in the summary notes. The Finance Committee and the Superintendent are recommending these resolutions to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ressler, second by Mrs. Gleason. Any discussion? No discussion.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones? Ms. Camworth, aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye.
Item 10.5 is a resolution for the application to the Illinois State Board of Education for the qualified school construction bonds. This would authorize the board president to execute the application. We'd be recommending this to the full board this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Ressler, second by Ms. Gleason. Any discussion? No discussion.
It's application only.
Right.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Camworth, aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye.
Item 10.6 pertains to our annual spring athletic supplies and equipment bids. We selected the low bid items from this, and we're recommending these vendors to the board this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ressler, second by Mr. Canning. Any discussion? No discussion.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Camworth, aye. Ms. Stearns?
Aye. Dr. Williams?
Item 10.7 is a curriculum handbook change, recommending the addition of studies in American literature. It's an honors level course. Our goal is to increase exposure of our regular students to a more rigorous course. This curriculum already exists. We already have the textbooks and materials. The Teaching and Learning Committee, along with the superintendent, are recommending full board approval of this course addition.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Canning, second by Mrs. Jones. Any discussion? No? No discussion.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Camworth, aye. Ms. Ressler?
Aye.
Ms. Stearns?
Aye.
Item 10.8 is policy for second and final reading. Following a policy committee discussion on October 28th and board approval as first reading at the November 17th board meeting, I am now recommending revisions to the attached sections of the board policy as second and final reading. The board attorney, uniform grievance procedure, payment procedure, drug alcohol-free workplace, tobacco prohibition, copyright, education of homeless children, equal educational opportunities, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschool students, restriction on publications, student fundraising activities, connection with the community, and gifts to the district.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Jones, second by Mrs. Gleason. Any discussion?
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Campworth, aye. Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Ms. Stearns?
Aye. Mr. Atkins.
10.9 is personnel. Under resignations, Julia Bradovic, Susan Hassan Perez, and Mark Gonzalez. Under leaves, Keith Anderson, Nedra Lee, and Sarah Bogart. Under employment, Delmar Smith, Robin Vella, Angela Lee, Abigail Nelson, and Brenda Gonzalez. The board's personnel committee met on December 7th. They reviewed the certificated and non-certificated items on the agenda, and these items are now being presented to the full board for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Stearns, second by Ms. Ressler. Any discussion?
Yes. Mark Gonzalez, he was just a sports coach here. He was not on faculty staff?
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions? No questions.
Ms. Stearns?
Yes. Aye.
Mrs. Ressler?
Aye.
Mr. Canning?
Aye.
Mrs. Gleason?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Campworth, aye.
Our announcements are as follows. Personnel will meet January 11th, 6:30 at the Ad Center. Finance, January 11th, 7 p.m. at the Ad Center. Teaching and Learning, January 12th, 7 p.m. at the Ad Center. Student and Leadership Board meeting will be Tuesday, January 19th, 7 p.m. at Bremen High School. And I have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.